Let's take you to the ANC 6th Policy Conference, where delegates are starting to make their way in. Ayanda Nyathi is standing by to speak to one of the ANC's alliance partners in the form of Matthew Parks, COSATU's parliamentary coordinator. Ayanda, it's over to you.
Yeah, that in just a moment, due to, of course, part of the big discussions that have been taking place is around what the ANC is doing to clamp down on what it describes in its policy papers as these transnational organized crime. I mean, in one of the latest incidents we saw yesterday, that really disturbing development around the gang rape of 8 women, it then emerged through the police minister who was speaking to us yesterday that some of those 67 people who've been arrested are foreign nationals. The residents there themselves considered that they are under siege, mostly by what they say are Basotho nationals who are running free essentially within that particular community. We know some of these issues are yet to be ventilated within this particular policy conference. They're spearheaded in part by Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, who's also the Home Affairs Minister. He joins us now for some of his thoughts in the lead up to some of these discussions. Minister, it's great to see you. Thanks very much indeed always for speaking to us.
Thank you very much.
You've been at pains to explain that, the country needs to do more in order to in part strengthen our own borders, improve our migration systems, etc. And yesterday we found out why that is so important, in part. This really disturbing story around the gang rape of those 8 women, of course you're aware of it. We're told some of those arrested are indeed foreign nationals.
Well, indeed, Ayanda, the unfortunate part is whenever we raise these issues, you are branded as xenophobe. This has nothing to do with xenophobia. This is real. That immigration need to have some form of policy which is overarching, which can be understood by everybody, where most South Africans participate. Let's talk about the porous borders. Everybody in the media blames Home Affairs. In fact, they don't blame, they bash Home Affairs for having porous borders and doing nothing about it. Now, a decade ago, NICOC, the National Intelligence Coordinating Committee, which coordinates all the intelligence services of the country, like military intelligence, crime intelligence, and state security intelligence. When they were doing what is called intelligence estimate, they picked up this issue I'm mentioning and said, no, these porous borders, South Africa is not secured, people are not safe. We need to do something. They recommended that we form a border management authority, which unfortunately took 10 years for Parliament to pass that act. But it's there now. You saw me 2 weeks ago establishing border guards there. Now, today in this policy conference, we are submitting an immigration document which must be discussed, which makes quite a number of proposals on this issue of immigration. And we're not saying people mustn't come to South Africa. We're not saying there's no country that can live isolated. We're just saying the manner in which they come must be regulated, and it must happen in such a way that the security of the country is not at stake, its sovereignty is not at stake. Basically what we are doing is what many other countries have done.
Yeah. Just to come in there, Minister, this Border Management Authority, help us place it into better context. Are you saying it will solve our issues at the very least at the borders? Because we know that the issues span further than that. There's flaws in the systems when it comes to migration and asylum seekers, for instance. But at the borders, is this authority the answer to some of our problems?
Those flaws, yes, you are right. It can't be. It's not a panacea for everything. Those flaws we are actually proposing how they get cured in the policy document. But the Border Management Authority, not being a panacea, it is there to say, want to come to South Africa? Yes, please go through a normal border gate. Don't just cross illegally through the borderline. That's basically what the Border Management Authority is all about. Or to say, look, you are not allowed to come with these things to South Africa. Immediately after establishing the border guards, they caught a taxi which is licensed to come into South Africa, but it was carrying 16 bags of dagga, and the border guards caught it and returned them. In Good Friday, I went to Musina. There's a bus there which is licensed by the Cross-Border Management Authority from the Department of Transport, but it was carrying 28 people who are coming to South Africa without any documents, hiding in the bus illegally. Now, those are the type of things that the border guards will stop from happening, because they were happening with gay abandon. Nobody was doing anything about them. Now, people who come here illegally, what are you coming? Like you give the example of the heartbreaking story of young women who were raped in their own country while they are sitting there doing what everybody does. They were recording and they just get raped and all that. And now Minister Tele said the people who were raped are illegal immigrants. Do you think they'll come and announce themselves, I'm here, if they know they're here for such activities? They won't. And so in our policies, we want to make sure that such incidences are reduced.
Yeah. Part of what the policy documents also speak about, and I'm aware of the rain, by the way, Minister, so thanks for your indulgence. In my culture, it's a sign of blessing, so hopefully things will go right today. The policy document under peace and stability mentions that part of the interventions that need to be made is really strengthening the National Security Council. Our concerns is that, according to what I think it was Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula had said before, that the council itself hadn't met since Thabo Mbeki was the president of the country. I mean, what kind of coherence is taking place insofar as that is concerned? Because if the council is yet to meet, there's no hope, some might argue, in implementing some of these policies through the council.
No, that's not very accurate. It is true that the National Security Council went moribund for about 10 years. It's true. But President Cyril Ramaphosa, because he's chaired by the president, by the way, yes, has restarted it, and it's already met. And I sit in that council. I think this year alone it has already met 4 times already.
When was that meeting? Because this is something that Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula did mention earlier this year, to be fair.
The last meeting, I think it's about a month ago. It started meeting from last year. I started, or 2021 actually. It started meeting. It was disturbed by COVID because a Security Council cannot meet by virtual. It has to meet physically because meeting visually might be very unsafe. Yes. So now that COVID is over, it's meeting quite often. It was supposed to have met, by the way, on Tuesday. Yes. It was billed to meet on Tuesday, but the meeting was cancelled because of preparations for this conference. So it is definitely meeting regularly. And the program is already there. I've already received the agenda. It's at home. I log it in my bedroom because it contains very confidential, secret things of the state. So I've already got it and I know what's going to be discussed.
Of course, you can't give us details around what's going to be discussed, but perhaps broad stroke concerns for that kind of meeting. I imagine migration for you is something that you'd want to focus on because of the very real ways that it affects South Africans.
I'm sure you are aware that every country has got a National Security Council. Yes. Yes, that's where the Minister of Defense, the Minister of Police, the Minister of State Security, the Minister of Home Affairs, the Minister of DERCO, the Minister of Finance, all meet under the President with Commissioner of Police, the Chief of the Defense Force, etc. You talk about the general security of the country. Where are the gaps? Where are the problems? What new policies are wanted? Is there a new act that is wanted? That's basically what the Security Council is all about. Like this issue I've just mentioned, about young girls just being raped like that. But, it has to go to the Security Council and discuss. Where have you gone wrong? If it is on immigration, then the Minister of Home Affairs need to do something about that part of the immigration that produced such a gap. Fortunately, we have already developed such a paper on immigration, which is going to be discussed in this conference.
Yeah. The recommendations around peace and stability involve professionalizing law enforcement in one way or the other and removing things like political interference within the several bodies that are represented, for instance, at the Security Council. That's obviously something I think you would back, but how much of a problem is it in your sector?
Well, in my setting, it's not really a problem. The problem I'm having is that immigration affects everybody. It affects you and affects many other government departments. But the department that decides on it is Home Affairs. And it's not even the whole of Home Affairs. It's one unit called permitting. A unit that permits people and give them documents to come in South Africa. That one unit is the one that is determines something that will affect you largely. So on our recommendation to the policy conference, we are saying we need an immigration board in which 11 government departments will sit, in which trade unions, labor will sit, in which civil society will sit. We don't want a situation where civil society react every time something happens on the streets, and we have got to react after them, complaining bitterly. They must know what decision was taken and for what reason, and whether they agree with that decision or not. So civil society is going to sit in that immigration board. We are also proposing experts, because Home Affairs people are not necessarily experts. We are proposing 4 experts who are knowledgeable on issues of, regulatory issues around the country and the world, who are knowledgeable on international law, who are knowledgeable on issues like forensic investigations, etc. You put them, they become the immigration board. They are the ones who make a decision about what must happen, so that nobody can come thereafter to come and complain.
Yeah. There'll be people who are in West Village, where this gang rape took place on Thursday, who'll be interested to know what can be done, obviously from police, but also on your end, to try and at least know which foreign nationals are there legally and which aren't. I mean, when you hear stories like this, I'm sure in your own reflections you consider what ways things can be done better on your end to at the very least clamp down on things like that. What does that look like, especially for those residents who are there, who are saying that they are under siege? Those are the words they used by foreign nationals, specifically Basotho.
Yeah, because they are already under siege, we need a joint operation, this one, between the police and Home Affairs. And for me personally, even the army, because I understand the men who raped those girls were very heavily armed. And and they say they are linked to the illegal mining. People who are involved in illegal mining are very heavily armed. I personally went to El Dorado Park. I think last year there was a by-election, a local government by-election. I went to El Dorado Park. I was told by ANC members they were taking me to some, I don't know whether they call it plastic or tent city, which is a sort of an informal settlement. They said, Minister, we challenge you to go and tell the Minister of Police and the Minister of Defense. Even police are scared to go into there. And I said, but what? They said, no, even police cannot go there. You can go to a police station to report. No police person can venture into there. Now, that cannot happen. You can't have even police of a country having a no-go area because somebody else from another country is staying there and making it their fortress and harassing locals. So those are the areas that must be raided. And if people are heavily armed, it means the army must come in. Like at the borders, people were confused about the role of the army and the role of the border guards, which we have just deployed. The role of the army in every country is to secure the borders of that country so that the country doesn't get invaded. There is no foreign force that can invade your country. That's what the army does. But the border guards are going to do what we call border law enforcement. That's different from securing a country. It's border law enforcement, where you are simply saying, oh, you want to visit South Africa. There is an official gate. Go there. You'll be fingerprinted. You'll be photographed. Your details will be taken. Then you can visit South Africa so that we know it. We know you. That's not what is happening at the present moment. And that's one of the things that we need to do. But for those who are already inside harassing people, we need to do operations there. And because at the moment, we have got immigration officials in Home Affairs they wear a uniform. They go around, but they are very, very few. They go around staging roadblocks, seeing whoever is illegal, taking them to Lindela, but they are very few. Yeah. So this needs a joint operation between many people. We are aware. We did such a joint operation in Alroad, in Alberton, where we found in a plastic factory people from Malawi and Zimbabwe who are having no document, meaning they are illegal. But they are living there, they are held under slave-like conditions. They sleep there, they eat there, they work there, they are locked in, they don't go out. Human beings cannot be allowed to live like that.
Absolutely. And that's part of the issue, right? When there's a flouting of laws, there are human rights violations somewhere in between all of that. Minister, I intentionally gave you time to speak so that at the very least you can give an assurance that something is being done, hopefully, to clamp down on what we all agree is really a heinous crime that's been committed. Thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. Aaron Motsoaledi, of course, is the Home Affairs Minister, also here in his capacity as an ANC NEC member who's going to be involved in various discussions around migration and policy.